Hi guys, it's Misty from the Book Rat, and today I'm going to be talking to you about 4 books, 2 that I DNF'd, and then another 2 that I almost DNF'd but ended up finishing, and why that is, and whether it was the right call. So all of the books will be listed and linked in the description below as always. Let's get into it. I'm going to start off with the most recent DNF and the one that I have the least to say about, and that is Small Town Hearts by Lily Vale. You may recall me talking about this one. I was actually excited to read it. It's one of the rare contemporaries that for whatever reason just kind of captured my interest and I was really eager to dig into. And I do think that there will be a lot of people that will enjoy this and will tear right through it and get what they're wanting out of it. But for me, I just couldn't connect to the voice and I didn't make it very far into this at all. And I kept thinking like, maybe it was my mood, maybe I just needed to adjust to the voice, and if I went back to it that I would like it, but not the case. I didn't love the main character. I didn't love the sort of approach, I guess, to the story, and I just didn't connect to the voice at all. Maybe as a teenager I would have, but it just wasn't enough to draw me back in. So this isn't a wholly, like, downvote, do not recommend type of thing, because I do think that it will find a wide audience, but it just wasn't for me, and I'm giving up on it. Next one is an audiobook, and that actually contributed quite a bit to why I was considering DNFing it, and the book is The House in Poplar Wood. There we go. By K.E. Ormsby. Seemed right up my alley, and I had someone actually tell me that it read like a Misty book, so I was really excited to get into it, but I couldn't get into...
Chapter 40.
Whoop! I didn't love the narrator's voice in the beginning, and I guess his delivery style. I'm going to play you just a little snippet of it. It's not that I think it's a horrible voice or anything, but just it wasn't working for me, especially as a sort of young tween voice.
Prologue. It was an ordinary day at Poplar House. It began as most ordinary days do,
Casanova.
with breakfast. Felix Vickery fixed himself porridge, with neither sugar nor butter to flavor the oats. Lee Vickery ate his mother's fresh fried country ham, with a mug of hot apple cider on the side.
Okay, so that's just a tiny little snippet, and you might not really get much from it or think like, why would that keep you from listening to the book? It was a number of things. Number one, it didn't come across as a young boy. Number two, there are some pronunciation things. There was just a little touch of it in that snippet, but T's he tends to pronounce almost like a TH, like he just said eighth instead of eight. Not quite that firmly, but just enough. And so there were a lot of things, just weird things. God, there was another one. I want to say it was D's. There was something weird that he did with some of his D's. He might have pronounced those like THs too. It was just not quite enough to be considered a speech impediment, but just a really odd like speech patterns that would pop up. But that wasn't even the main thing. It was more his delivery, which could come across very dry and very formal, I guess. Again, not just for the story and being middle grade, but being a young boy's voice. Maybe part of it was intentional, you know, as part of the world building, I don't know. And again, he's being directed, he's a voice actor, so maybe that's what the director wanted, but it was just enough kind of red flags pinging in the beginning that by the time he got to doing a girl's voice, and I really didn't like the way he did that, I was ready to give up on it. And I did. I set it aside for a few days. And then one day I was working in the plant room on repotting some things, and I didn't want to listen to Spotify, and I was having trouble with my audiobook app, just not wanting to download things, and that one was fully downloaded. So I went ahead and kept listening, and I'm really glad that I did. I loved it. I thought it was great. I still did have some narrator issues throughout. I did mostly get used to him, but I don't at all like the way that he did girl voices. I know that it's really hard for guys to do girl voices and vice versa. It's not so much the sound of it. It was the tone that he chose to give whenever a girl would talk, and especially the main character, that was very borderline whiny and sullen and snotty. Even when the character wouldn't be saying something that was at all snotty. It just all had that inflection, and it was just kind of pissing me off. So, I mean, there were things that drove me nuts a little bit throughout, but the story itself is worth it. So even though I had thought I was going to give up on the audiobook, I would have kept going with the story in written form just because it did seem like a Misty book and I was engaged. But yeah, audiobooks are one of those things, and I think a lot of people who don't read audiobooks and can't get into them, the voice is a big part of why, and that was a big part of what held me off for a long time. I will say you will adjust quicker than you think you would, but sometimes you just won't get on with the voice, and that's okay. It's a reason enough to give it a pass and maybe seek out the book in print form. But I am glad that I kept going with this one. It did make for great listening while I was indoor gardening. For my last two, they're actually very similar, and one of them I gave up on, and one of them I decided to keep going. The first is the one I gave up on, and it is called An Affair to Dismember. Now, I'm no stranger to the free Kindle book, and both of these were free Kindle books. This, that you probably can't see at all, is An Affair to Dismember. It had a really cute cover, and it was free, and it's sort of it seemed like, anyway, that it was going to be kind of a cozy mystery. And I've been weirdly craving those, even though I've never really been super into them. I've been wanting them lately, so I went ahead and downloaded it. I made it about 20% in, mostly because I was stuck somewhere twice that, you know, I had a little time to kill, 20 minutes, half an hour to kill, and figured, okay, I'll go ahead and give this one a try. And then after that first time, I was thinking, no, I'm not going to do it again. But the second time I got stuck somewhere, I was like, well, I'll read a little bit more. And then some things happened that I was like, nope, nope, absolutely not. So this one is a hard DNF. I am done with it. The things that kind of had me a little leery of it in the beginning, I mean, the writing's just not good, and the character interactions and the way the world is set up and the whole approach was just kind of questionable, but it was sort of early days, you know, so I was thinking, well, there are plenty of books that start rough and come around, especially in this kind of genre and this style. It wasn't so completely horrible that I was like mad to have spent my $0 on it. But then you get to this character. So the main character is the granddaughter of someone who runs a matchmaking business, and she's working in the business with her, and then there's a murder across the street, and I'm guessing she's gonna solve the murder or get involved in it somehow. But it starts off with her, you know, supposed to be matchmaking herself and also starting to think about getting into her own match. And from that takes the strangest turn that I actually took some screenshots and shared these online because I was like, what in the hell? Hi, buddy. Did you want to talk about this book? Did you have something to add? Did you? So here's what I shared online. I'll put it up on the screen while I read it so that you can, you know, read along with me and see what I'm talking about. Basically, the character has gone to like a beautician, I guess, and this is comments from the beautician that are phrased and taken like it's normal, and it was so disturbing to me that I was like, I'm not giving this book another minute of my time. So this is what the beautician says. She thinks that the main character is ready to start putting herself out there, which obviously means cleaning herself up and losing weight that she's gained from like a little bit of snacking at her grandma's house. The main character starts getting male attention suddenly, including from like a whole squad of like cops and firefighters who help rescue her from being stuck up on a pole and are catcalling her and yelling about seeing her underwear while she's up there. So, yep. But this was just, it ended it. Bird, the woman that's working on her hair, says, "You're thawing out. You're probably emitting pheromones right now. It comes with the thaw. Men will be flocking to you and your pheromones. Soon you'll be losing weight, too." It's like, okay, well, you know, crackpot hairdresser theory. Sure. But then she goes on to say that there's only one good diet, and she recommends that the main character try it, and it's called the Spit It Out diet. It's not bulimia. It's safe and effective. I stepped back from my chair and did a dramatic turn. Her point was taken. She was slender and fit. She was a poster child for the Spit It Out diet, whatever that was. And then the woman bird goes on to say, "You put it in your mouth for a taste, and if it's not worth the calories, you spit it out." And then one of the other hairdressers says she does it all the time, and then Bird goes on to demonstrate in a wastebasket. And this, instead of like the main character reflecting on it and being like, wow, she starts thinking like, yeah, great idea. And just the line, "It's not bulimia, it's safe and effective," in a book, going unchecked, was just like mind-boggling to me. So basically, fuck that book. I'm done with it. The other one was also a Kindle freebie, and I did actually tweet out in my big long thread of books I've read this year thread that I was giving up on this one, but again I got stuck somewhere and continued on. So that one is Southern Spirits by Angie Fox. This was also free. My guess would be that both of these are free still if you want to look them up. This one is another sort of cozy mystery. Not really cozy mystery, it's more urban fantasy. And it started off really strong. I was like, this is pretty great actually for a free Kindle book. I mean, it was cheesy and it could have done with some, you know, tightening, some like professional editing. But for the most part, I was like, no, this isn't that bad. And then this sort of linchpin in the whole thing comes along, and it's this gangster ghost that just read is so cheesy to me, and I was just not into it. And because he's kind of how she's pulled into this world, I figured he's going to be in the whole damn thing, and I really just didn't want to deal with him and his absolutely absurd mannerisms and the world building around him, and then their relationship and interactions on top of that. I just wasn't feeling it. So I actually did set this one aside. I was probably 35 to 40% of the way through because it's a very quick read. But then again, I was stuck somewhere and I figured I would go ahead and continue with it instead of starting something new. I ended up liking it enough to go ahead and finish. It still did have some pet peeve things. It still was really cheesy, and I wish that she had dug deeper. I think it definitely could have benefited from some editing, and I think the choice of villain and the approach to their villainy was really over the top and not believable. But I still do think it is actually better written than a lot of the sort of Kindle freebies that are out there, and I think she shows potential to, you know, kind of grow and become a better, stronger writer. I think the world shows potential to become really interesting. I still want to get rid of the gangster. I still want to get rid of some elements that I just think are kind of lame vehicles into the story. But I don't regret the time spent, and it was a really quick read, so whatever. So there you have it. Those are 4 recent reads, 2 of which I DNF'd, 2 of which I continued with, and don't regret, for the most part. If you've read any of these, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you agreed or disagreed. Also, what makes you DNF a book, or what are some recent books that you just decided life is too short and I'm not finishing this. But that's all for now. As always, thank you guys for watching, and of course, happy reading!